So we capped out at 100 orders. Why would I give a stranger a free product and then give them percentage of my sales?
Go print 100 to 200K a month in sales from TikTok.
There's affiliates out there that are making more than what I pay myself.
What's up, everyone? Today we're digging into, I don't know what we're going to call this, maybe operator pod or something of that nature. But anyway, Kevin from Chocbox, you're about to hear their story. We've been connected for some years now, and we back channel quite a bit about TikTok Shop, probably catch up at least once a month, if not more. So we're starting to bring to light some of those conversations we've been having, hopefully have some other guests on. I don't know. We'll see how this evolves. Anyway, Kevin, thanks for taking the time. We're going to focus today on your Chocbox origin story, which I've had the chance of seeing since your first days in TikTok Shop. And I know it goes back even further than that. So why don't we start with just a quick intro and your current intro, and then we'll take a trip in the time machine and visit what this looked like a few years ago.
Let's do it. Awesome. Jake, thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Just to kind of kick things off, my name is Kevin. I am the chief chocolate eater here at Chocbox. Kind of a pun, kind of true to some degree, but here at Chocbox, I just, the easiest way to explain it is I do all the most boring things, plus a little bit of acting on the content side to kind of please my wife with her work. In terms of my story, I've worked a long career in real estate, then in tech, and then most recently in corporate mental health care. And then when we had our viral moment a little over 2 years ago, I joined Chocbox full time to help grow the business, which my wife started back in 2020.
Amazing. And I got connected to your wife, Britt, years ago as you were getting things rolling on TikTok Shop, had gotten some solid traction. Yeah. And we actually all connected on a call. And I think at that point you were still part-time, just kind of helping out here and there, still working your previous gig. So when Britt got this rolling, when did she start jumping into TikTok? Because surely this would have been before TikTok Shop, right?
Yeah, so Britt started Chocbox back in 2020. She was working as a dental hygienist at the time, and obviously nobody was getting their teeth cleaned. So she was at home living with her parents, her sister, and her brother. And she was essentially bored one day and decided to try to figure out how to make a chocolate bar. So she went through the process of buying all the ingredients, buying a mold, etc., made a chocolate bar at home. It was delicious. She posted the process on her Instagram page and realized that people were responding to that post, not necessarily asking to try her chocolate, but asking how she made the bar. And so that was kind of the first light bulb moment of Chocbox and the origin of Chocbox, realizing that people wanted to have that experience, especially during COVID, where everybody was kind of locked in and locked up at home, trying to find new creative things to do, like making sourdough bread was very popular. I'm sure a lot of people got into painting, etc. So that was how Chocbox originated. At the time, it was very much like a organic, crafty style brand. All of the chocolate was like dark chocolate, essentially. So that was the very, very beginning of Chocbox and how it started.
Yeah, and then I know you ended up obviously launching into TikTok Shop, and maybe I can share some behind the scenes on my side, because I don't know if many folks know this, but pre-TikTok Shop, there were still plenty of D2C and consumer brands that were using TikTok as their primary acquisition funnel. Very famous in the chocolate space was actually Tabs, Intimacy, Get Down chocolate. But there were plenty more, and we worked with a lot of those folks, and it was always kind of an attribution issue. But what was interesting about your introduction into TikTok Shop was some of that had to do with the directive we on the agency side got from the TikTok team, which is the TikTok shop team didn't tell us to go after big, large consumer D2C brands spending a lot in ads, or to go after brands that had never done anything on the platform, or more enterprise brands. We had a specific directive and criteria set, which had to do with that brand page's followers. And so, us and the original agencies, we actually would get put in touch with all of those early TikTok brands who were already using it to drive sales that they knew into Shopify, into Amazon, into other channels. And so I guess even before you ultimately launched in TikTok Shop, was this at that point, like I legitimately don't even know, this is something we haven't even spoken about.
Yeah.
Was this the primary, was this a primary acquisition channel? Was it maybe second to Instagram? Was it more just a viral kind of content place? Where did it sit like in the stack?
Yeah. So when Chocbox originally started, initially started as just basically, word of mouth, right? Selling to family and friends, people in our community here in LA. And then when she had launched the product on Etsy, it just kind of gained like organic traffic. To be honest, I have to ask Britt on how people even figured out that her products were on Etsy. Maybe people were searching for DIY activities. I have no idea, right? I don't think if there is insights on Etsy at the time, I don't think Britt was, or anyone really was paying attention to it.
Yeah.
TikTok itself, I think there's a lot, especially 5 years ago when Chalkbox started, I think people looked at TikTok and had some, opposition towards like being a user of TikTok or spending any time on TikTok. There's almost like a stigma, like if you're on TikTok, you have TikTok brain or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah.
so there was a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Um, I guess internal conflict with Brit and TikTok. Like she hated it. Like she's like, TikTok is not my audience. TikTok is not where I want to be. It's all younger people and they don't care
Yeah.
about, they don't have buying power or they're not my consumer or whatever it is. And when we started dating back in 2023, I think it was, I should probably know that, but
Doesn't matter
when we
now.
started, yeah, at this point we were married and kids, all that was past. But when we started dating, I was just telling Britt, I'm like, look, TikTok is incredible in terms of top of funnel awareness, right? It's like the only place, and I still believe this today. I think it's one of the only channels that gives somewhat of a fair chance of for anyone to go out there and have their viral moment and be able to reach an audience. I think their algorithms skew um, towards discovery versus Instagram, for example, is skewed towards like personas or celebrities or influencers, etc. Right? Anyone could go on TikTok, make a video, and boom, like have their viral moment or have a viral video. So I pushed her like I went not hard, but I kept telling her, I'm like, look, you got to post on TikTok. Like TikTok's the place to be. Even to the point where I was saying it so much that she set a reminder every day at 10 a.m. on her phone, post on TikTok.
Yeah.
So that's how it first started. It wasn't, we had no idea if it was going to be anything for us at the time or anything for Chalkbox at the time. It was just more so like me being like, hey, I have a good feeling about this. Like you should probably start posting. And that's just kind of how it happened. And she was spending a lot of time like creating really high value content with lots of edits and spending a lot of time figuring out what she's going to post, like really beautiful ASMR, like food porn kind of content. And then she would
Yeah.
just cross promote everything, cross post everything she was posting on Instagram, on TikTok. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how TikTok started. But we were getting 50 views. We had like 3 followers. It was really nothing, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So then at what point then did you all get activated for TikTok Shop? Would that have been
Yeah.
not until 2024, or were you a part of the late 2023 beta?
I have to ask Britt exactly when we signed up, but I know that when we launched our product on TikTok Shop and created the video that went viral, that kind of started this whole thing for us, we had a TikTok shop set up. So at some point, she, when I was probably begging her to post on TikTok, she probably went in there and created a TikTok shop. It wasn't
Yeah.
connected to our Shopify. It didn't have any products. It just like existed, like we didn't think about it twice. It was there. So that was actually, there was a few like somewhat serendipitous, lucky moments that really helped propel the brand, that you can't really plan for. And one of them was just like having a TikTok shop that was approved, that we could post
Yeah.
products on like instantly.
Yeah. Which it's crazy how much the game has changed in only a
Yeah.
few years. But for those that don't know, at that point, the strategy on TikTok was mainly still oriented to brand content on the page. They had just introduced the affiliate program, which I'm sure we'll get into. And then the
Yeah.
GMV Max ad product at that point didn't exist. There was only an ad product called VSA, which was the worst conversion rate ROAS I've ever seen in my career. Um, but those are definitely the days, and so much of it was driven by virality, organic. I know the platform's changed so much, and it's lost some of the love
Yeah.
for that. I think somewhat dictated by brands, which I know is more of a meta conversation we can speak to. But what was your like oh shit moment with TikTok? You mentioned that one post going viral, but when did the numbers get real? When was it like, oh wow, we just did 50 grand in sales from a couple TikTok videos that cost us like, you know, 2 to 3 minutes of our time?
Yeah. So I think there was it probably took us quite a while for it to like sink in that this was happening, right?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, define real, right? Like, to me, it wasn't really real for months, in a lot of ways. We were just like, oh, this is happening and it's awesome, but tomorrow it's going to end. Like we always thought like tomorrow it's going to end. Not, tomorrow, actually tomorrow, but like very soon, like,
Yeah.
songs, the birds are going to stop singing and like we're just going to go back to our normal life, right? But
Yeah.
I would say in terms of us being like, oh shit, like excuse my language, but oh crap, like we have to get our stuff together, was really that first video, because that first video generated 100 sales in like 5 hours. And at the time, TikTok had a cap on new brands, or brands who were posting products for the first time, I guess. And we were capped at $100 orders. So we capped out at 100 orders in like 5 hours after posting that first video. And then the next day we capped out at 100 orders at like 7:30. And then the following day we capped out at 100 orders as well, very early in the morning. I think that was like our first oh shit moment. And to be honest, we didn't even have a product. We had a recipe. We didn't have products ready to ship or anything. We just kind of, because we had no idea, we had no idea it was going to go viral. We're like, oh, whatever. It was actually in relation to all the prior content that my wife was posting, it was the least amount of effort she ever spent on a piece of content ever,
Yep.
like ever, by far. Not, she was spending 2 3 hours. This video took her 10 minutes to shoot, 10 minutes to post.
Yep. As is always the
So,
case.
and that's actually how, yeah, right. So you never really know, right? You could create the best piece of content with the best edits, the best everything, and it could flop. And you could create, a piece of content that you think sucks with no, effort, or little to low effort on the editing side, and that could just take off. And so I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember how we first got connected? It was actually I think it was like day 4 or 5 or something like that, when we had after the third day of generating 100 sales a day, we had gotten basically our product banned,
Yeah. The
because
violation. Yeah.
yeah, we got like a violation that banned the product, right? So we couldn't, post new. I don't know. I don't know exactly. I don't really remember exactly what happened, but I knew that like our sales kind of just completely stopped, because I think TikTok was like, this is strange. Like, how are these guys doing 100 orders a day by, in 7 a.m.
Yeah.
For 3 days? So I think that was our first moment where we were like, wow, TikTok is insanely powerful. Like I don't think that could ever happen on Instagram, at least from a brand that is basically has no following or is not known at all into the world, in the US, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and we had at that point got connected on there was a violation that came up,
Yeah.
and yeah, there was that product issue, and I found that interesting because at that point the only brands doing that level of volume of orders were all already connected to some sort of TSP partner in TikTok. At least we're
Yeah.
supposed to, and
Yeah.
you know we were supposed. It's on TSPs to like figure that out, but there weren't a lot of independent sellers at that point. Um, Doing any crazy level of volume. It was more the hand-picked brands that were working closely with TikTok Shop, and then of course they introduced the affiliate side. So once you got, past that order cap, I know you started extending out your product line. I don't know if we want to start there with the Dubai chocolate and perhaps the originators of that as a trend on platform.
Yeah.
But I assume that ran parallel path to some affiliate programming, or when did you get
So
rolling on the affiliate side?
I think before like anything with affiliates happen, I think it's also interesting to talk about the serendipitous things that happen to like work out for us.
Yeah,
And and the one thing I did not mention earlier about like why we posted on TikTok or how this whole TikTok thing even started for us on the product side of things was that beyond just having a shop that was already activated and approved, because my wife or both of us we were like active-ish on TikTok, we both started noticing that people were posting Dubai chocolate, which is now known as Dubai chocolate. At the time, it was just a pistachio filled chocolate bar. We started noticing people posting that online, and we actually read through all the comments, and the comments were like essentially parallel to what Brit was experiencing in 2020, where people were asking not how to buy the bar or where to buy the bar. They were asking how to make the bar and where to get the
yeah,
ingredients and where to get the mold, etc. So that was also like our almost like second light bulb moment. And the thing that made us extremely lucky at the time was we already had a DIY kit company, right? So, a month earlier, we're talking about shutting down the company. All of a sudden, I'm like, we have this thing happen that's completely out of our control. And we're like, wow, this could be our opportunity to create a product that already has some level of demand that is not being serviced by anyone, right? Like nobody has a product. We searched everywhere for a product. We couldn't find anything. So that's a part of how this whole thing kind of ended up, the stars aligning in some capacity. And on top of that, so the chocolate bar itself, I think everybody knows at this point, but it's like a thick stuffed chocolate bar. It's supposed to be, at least. um and Brit, for one reason or another, when she made her custom molds for Chalkbox back in 2020, 2021, etc., for some reason she's like, instead of doing the standard thickness, she's like, oh, I want to do a thick bar. No
yeah,
reason.
yeah,
Just like, she's like, oh, whatever. I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker, so there's more chocolate in there. I don't know. We'll have to ask her exactly why she did it. But having that thick mold was there. Nobody else had a thicker mold than a
yeah,
standard, like, you know I don't know, probably 5-6 millimeter. I don't know, whatever it was, super thin mold. So that allowed us to have really the product that probably had the longest lead time, right? Because you're most likely sourcing it from China, etc. We had the inventory. So
yeah,
all we had to do is put together the puzzle pieces, and then boom, we had a product. So that's how the whole thing kind of came together. And then back to your question on affiliates, we're naive. As someone who's never been on TikTok, has not spent second studying anything in regards to TikTok Shop affiliates, etc. We had no idea what that was, or what the power of the affiliate program, or what it even means. To be honest, in the very beginning, I was like, why would I give a free sample to someone, right? Like, why would I give them 10% of my revenue or 15% of my revenue? I was like, that sounds horrible. Like, I'm not open to that. I don't,
Yeah.
at the time I was like, no way. Like, why would I do that? It doesn't make sense. Because, why to to like a person who doesn't understand, who's very new or naive to the platform, I'm looking at it and I'm like, why would I give a stranger a free product and then give them percentage of my sales? It does
Yeah.
something doesn't make sense. So we kind of just like refused to do it. And then and then, very early on, we did 0 free samples, I think for the first few months at least. And people were, affiliates were buying our product, posting. We had like an open collab plan at I think probably a pretty low commission rate. I can't remember exactly what it was, but affiliates were posting and making sales. But we still refused to give samples. We were like, no, no free samples. You have to buy it uh,
Yeah.
to post. So that was like the very beginning of it, of the affiliate program.
Yeah. And so at this point, you had jumped onto that platform trend of which, and also something that gets missed in this is we talk so much to new brands launching in TikTok Shop, especially brands with either they have a portfolio of consumer brands
Yeah,
or one of their brands has numerous products, and we talk to them all the time about how the the closer the product is to the content, the better, because that's what enables the affiliate side. And in your case, if you were just selling an ends product as a chocolate bar, it wouldn't have near the same content ability as the fact that you have a
yeah,
kit and can go
yeah,
through a making process that now creators have to go through. And that's actually that's been funny learning, because when I talk to brands in product development, I'll actually tell them to like take 2 steps back. But it's a very, I mean, it's an age old principle. I think originally with one of the cake mix companies, which was like you didn't have to actually add an egg, but they would tell you to add an egg, so you would feel like you were cooking.
yeah,
Um, and there's so many good examples of that. But I think that's something that gets missed somewhat, is on how you're enabling that on the affiliate side. But it's curious to hear your perspective on that, because that is the perspective I hear from more of the lean startup companies, and how they view the affiliate side. Like, why would I give them a free product and a percentage of sales? What was so funny for all the brands we had worked with in influencer marketing world, we've been
yeah,
used to paying these creators hundreds
yeah,
and
thousands.
thousands of
Yeah,
dollars to just post a video, and like hoping they wouldn't promote a competitor like three
yeah,
videos later, and crossing our fingers they wouldn't like shit on the brand in the comments or like not defend us.
yeah.
um
Or not even
so
know what the ROI is. You have no idea. It's extremely hard to track any sort of direct correlation
oh yeah.
to those paid collabs, right? I mean, maybe yours.
Yeah. No, it was totally blind. We were just doing any sort of triangulation to attribution to kind of
Yeah,
figure it out, but brands would still spend on it. So what was funny is all of those brands, when they heard about the affiliate program, they were all over it, because that was an immediate unlock to them and their business. So let's get into more of the last year or two, as you've started to hit some big numbers. I don't know if you want to share anything top line, but obviously this has been a dominant channel for you all. This has led now to pickups in retail. I'm guessing a lot of this is correlated to D2C. Obviously, at some point during this mix as well, you went from outside kind of supporting the business to full time in the business, taking the leap, with now the full family business. So, what did that process look like? Like, as those numbers got bigger, and you started to continue to scale in TikTok Shop, launch more products.
yeah,
What happened to the business? Like, I assume it was a pretty lean operation
yeah,
prior to this.
yeah. I mean, we're still pretty lean, right? I think as a business, especially if you're bootstrapped, right, you have to be pretty selective on how you're spending your free cash flow, and ensuring that any investment that you make into the business actually has a positive outcome, right? You're probably a bit more risk averse than any sort of venture backed or any sort of brand that has raised a ton of capital. But back to your question around, how the transition was made. I mean, there were, so again, to like your question about it being feeling or being real, or when was like that moment where you felt that it was real. We really, I think it was very real when I'm like, look, I'm spending 15 hours a day working. I'm spending maybe 4 to 6 hours on my day job, and then I'm spending 10 hours working at Chocbox. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. and I'm sleeping at midnight. I'm packing the boxes. I'm shipping the boxes. I'm doing customer service. I'm handling our affiliate stuff. We're making content at the time, coordinating and purchasing all of our raw materials and goods, etc. That was 6 months in, after feeling like, wow, this is, we've thought this was going to end for the past 6 months every month, and it's still growing. Meanwhile, we're doing more revenue on TikTok Shop, way more revenue on TikTok Shop than what I make in a salary over the course of a year. I just kind of was like, I've always had that itch to be an entrepreneur. I never felt like the jump into entrepreneurship or running my own business would get any shorter than it was at that moment.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like, look, it's either now or never. The crazy thing was, this is in January of 2025, a year and a half ago. We had just found out we were pregnant, so with our first kid, right? And that was I think at the time, yeah, definitely at the time, our biggest month, right? Like, we were insanely viral. We had hit number one in food and beverage on TikTok Shop, and we just found out we were pregnant. Meanwhile, I'm killing myself working all these crazy hours, and that's when I decided, you know what, it's time to just dive in, right?
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, screw it, let's do this, right? Let's ride, let's rock and roll. And I felt, really, the thing that made me feel most comfortable wasn't the revenue, because as a business, revenue goes up and down, right? That's just the nature
Yeah.
of the business. The thing that made me feel comfortable with taking that leap was that I felt so confident in the community that we've built. Just seeing people's comments on our videos, people showing up to our live streams every day, consistently and religiously, people saying, I love Chocbox. Chocbox is incredible. I brought Chocbox to a date. My kids love Chocbox. I gave Chocbox as a gift to my teachers. All these little things that we were just seeing in the comments or on our TikTok lives made me feel like, wow, that this is the key, right? This is the key to growing a successful business, is creating that online community. For us, online, right? Other people could do it in person, right? If they have a retail or a brick and mortar store, etc. So um, that's kind of how I made that decision to run this full time.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is
It's a
scary.
fascinating mental
It's scary.
model. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything, the platform's scary enough in terms of its, algorithm dependence, but, um, I wish what you say in the community side is it's so right. And I think a lot of the real ones in the space know that to be true. It's something I don't ever get a chance to discuss, very rarely deploy, or execute on for our brand partners, because I think a lot of people hear that and I don't think they know what it means, like, in terms of a way to quantify that, because so much of our industry just runs things into numbers.
Yeah. Like,
But
how many
I
followers do you
always,
have? Yeah.
yeah, and I always get into these fights about, like, well, not all impressions are created equal. Like, I know of brands that they can roll out of bed and go print 100 to 200K a month in sales from TikTok
Right.
without their followers growing, without any new content strategy, without having to do anything unique, but because they have, like, a loyal community base that they built up over years. And we just don't quantify community well, so I never talk
It's
about
hard.
it,
Yeah.
because there's no way, it's so difficult for brands to replicate it. But that is, it's interesting that that's where you put your confidence signal, because I can tell you, one of the things that I look at in the brands that we work with, before we potentially work with them, or if we, when we decide if we're going to do that or not,
Yeah.
is obviously I look at all the data points, but I immediately jump to like the community side. Like, do
Yeah.
people love this product, or they just like it and buy it because the funnel is really good?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always look for those outlier brands, because I think that's how you build a more relenting brand, and then ultimately business
Yeah.
through social channels. Like, you have to have that.
Yeah, 1,000%, right? Like, to anyone starting a TikTok shop or a brand focusing on growing their community or audience and ultimately sales through a TikTok shop as a channel, I always tell them, I'm like, look, you don't like, it's not about being super polished or creating the best hooks and CTAs and angles and this. Like, it's not about any of that. At the end of the day, like, just be yourself. If TikTok the algorithm really will find the audience that resonates with your specific, like, perspective on life or products or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's the science of hooks or the science. I'm like, look, it's just about being real. Like, just be real. Like, if you're real and it works and people resonate with you as an individual, or with you as a brand, then great, right? If it doesn't, then maybe you have to rethink your go-to-market strategy, or or your values as a brand, or whatever it ends up being, right? But for us, it's all just been about, even today, right? From the beginning and today. From the beginning, it was very unintentional, right? Because we had no training, and nobody, neither me or Britt, had a background in advertising or in brand building or in branding. Like, we were like ripping things on Canva just and putting it out there, self-made, but all of it was just organic and authentic. We were just ourselves. If you look back at our videos, like, we've done like sketches, we've done things that are, I think, uh pretty intimate, sharing the struggles that we've been through as founders, sharing how we Britt got pregnant in the middle of us being like the most viral we've ever been, and little things like that I think really create a community, as like kind of cliche as it sounds. And I think a really, one of the and the examples of like how incredible building a community is online, especially on TikTok Shop, are like available to me every day, right? It's like the people that are always coming back to our live, like being like, "Wow, you got a haircut." I'm like, not even my friends know that I got a haircut. Like, how do you know that I got a haircut? Right? They're like, "Oh, I love that shirt that you wore like last week," or like, "Oh, that's a cool Chalkbox hat. Did you just get?" I'm like, "How do you know this stuff?" Right? They're paying attention. It's about building those relationships online. And then yesterday or 2 days ago, I came across a video that was clearly like an AI generated affiliate content, and it had gotten 50,000 views, something like that, or like quite a bit of views. And the top comment with like thousands of likes was, "I would never buy from a brand that promotes their products with AI generated content," right? And I'm like, damn, that sucks. Like, people are thinking that we're putting AI content out there, which we're not. And the second comment, if you click like, view more or whatever, was some random person backing us up, being like, that's not the brand making the content, that's an affiliate, they don't have control over the affiliate content. The next day, which was yesterday, I'm on TikTok live, and some random, someone who I thought was random comes on the live, and they're like, "Hey man, just wanted to let you know, like, thanks," because I responded to the comment. I was like, "Thanks so much for having our back. Like, we appreciate you saying that." And so that person shows up on our live and was like, "I love Chalkbox. I can't believe someone would say that about you." Like, completely just supporting us. Right? We have they have no skin in the game, right? They just know who we are and what we're really about, and there's people out there that are going to support us. And so that's the power of community, right? It's just like, you have people that are going to have your back and live and die by your brand and what you built. So, and really what you're
Amazing.
building together, I think. So,
Well, I know we're going to cover some more of this in future episodes where we take specific dives. But
yeah.
how are you looking at now? Like, what does the future look like for the brand, for the business? Where does TikTok fit in that stack? Now that there's more competition within the
Yeah.
ads market with affiliates, you probably can't squeeze as much profit out of this platform as you used to. But at the same time, there's more external validation to underwrite TikTok Shop for. I mean, we see companies now. This seems like the golden era of raising capital. You don't need to comment on that, but raising capital in CPG, like there's a lot of interesting things there.
Yeah.
Retail seems to be like Target specifically seems to have an obsession with TikTok. Everyone's fighting for a piece of the pie, including some of the bigger brands. And one of the things I'll say, even in this category, one of our first TikTok shop brands, we got them to, I mean, they hit 100,000 a month in sales within the first month of TikTok while it was still in beta.
Wow.
They actually got acquired, and they got acquired for no correlation to their books. It was 100% because of their social media presence on Instagram and TikTok. So it's just all that to say, there's so much external validation, but in the platform, it's really getting harder to squeeze out margin. So how are you as an operator like viewing this for all the other startup and more lean small businesses out there?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I have like two main things to say here, right? Like for us personally as a brand, TikTok Shop needs to be a profitable platform, right? That's the bottom line. It has to be. There are definitely other brands out there that TikTok Shop is a marketing line item, and to them, it's like, hey, we break even, we lose a little bit, it is what it is. It's going to push revenue externally on Amazon or DTC on our website or in stores, etc. Right. So the way that my perspective is personally for Chalkbox, and the way that I would think about it for any like startup or newer brand going into TikTok Shop is the goal is obviously to be profitable, right? That's what makes the world go around. That's what allows businesses to kind of continue to grow and be there, right? Without profit, we don't really have any businesses, right? So um we longer term, right, we still see TikTok Shop as a platform not only to bring profits but an opportunity for more growth, right? I think the growth will come with TikTok Shop as a platform growing, right? So I think, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think the TAM or total addressable market on TikTok Shop versus Amazon is extremely small. Like, I don't know, maybe a few percent. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the fact, that tells me that there's still a lot of opportunity and growth on TikTok Shop as a marketplace, right? So we're in that for the long haul. We think we could grow with the platform itself. Um, in terms of how I look at TikTok externally and how it impacts our overall business, I think what people are noticing is back in the day, right? Back in the like 10 years ago, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, you'd go to the supermarket, you'd walk down the aisle, and it's like, oh, this brand looks cool, like I'll grab it off the shelves and I'll try it, right? Today, I mean, no shame in saying this, but we don't go, especially now that we have a kid, like we don't go to the market to buy groceries. Like we're buying groceries on Amazon from Whole Foods, and it's being delivered to us directly, right? So a lot of the discovery that we're experiencing is primarily happening online, and especially on TikTok Shop. So I think what's changing in terms of from the consumer's perspective, is they're walking into the store, and back in the day they browse the shelves and kind of see what stands out, maybe the brand, the labeling has a selling point or whatever, high protein, whatever it may be, that addresses a need for a consumer, and that's how they decide to buy the product. Versus today, I think a lot of consumers are going into stores and being like, oh, I saw that online, or I saw that on TikTok Shop, and they grab it off the shelves, right? So the
Yeah.
discovery is now shifted towards online on TikTok Shop or TikTok, for example, versus in stores. And so I think for any brand, I think it's extremely smart to focus on that awareness play, right, on TikTok. And we've seen a lot of success with that through launching at World Market, where we sold out of, a couple, I think it was like 3 or 4 months worth of inventory in like 2 weeks, just through promoting through TikTok, basically. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's incredibly powerful, and I mean, I don't know, like I can't speak for everyone, but for me, if I was going into a store and I see, I don't know, five, I don't know, protein bars, I don't know, just for a random example, five protein bars or 20 protein bars, and I'm trying to pick the one I want to buy, I'm probably going to pick the one that I've seen videos about online talking about the health benefits or the how good it tastes or whatever, because I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with that product. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, and I know we need to do a full
yeah,
episode about that awareness to retail engine because there's so much that's been happening here. Um, let's close this out with the last thing. What is your Q3? We're in mid June right now. This will go out next week probably. Um, what's the Q3 strategy to get amped? I mean, for you, you have such a
yeah,
Q4 product, as do so many folks. So like,
yeah,
what do you do in July, August, and September, where it's oftentimes the doldrums of ecom,
yeah,
and people are traveling and spending money on that, and less so,
yeah,
consumer products. So, what's your goal headed into Q3 here?
yeah. I mean, the more we, start thinking about how to run and optimize how we run our business, the more it takes to like be pretty proficient in planning, right? And I think back in the day, like it took us a week. We'd come up with the product in a week, right? It'd just be like, all right, here's what we think. Let's go buy the ingredients. Boom. Let's go create the branding on Canva, and we'll just like
Yeah,
put the product out in like 2 weeks. Like that's how fast it was, right? So I think now in Q3, like our goal is, it's all about planning for Q4 really.
yeah,
And I think what we're thinking about as a brand at our scale is, one, how do we continue to put out products that we feel extremely confident in terms of the way they taste, the feel, the price point, etc., how they differentiate from other products in the market. How do we put out a product that's absolutely delicious, that's affordable, that the branding is like incredible, um, and so we're thinking a lot about that and spending a lot more time on that, like months, right? It takes us a while now, right, to put out relative to early days to put out a product. And then the second thing we're thinking about is as TikTok Shop as a platform continues to evolve, right? What could we do as a brand to help our affiliates crush it, right? Like my pie in the sky like dream is I want our affiliates, I want a few affiliates, right, at least, right, to be able to make their livelihood solely promoting Chalkbox. I mean, I'm not saying that I want them to only promote Chalkbox, but the goal is to have, our top 5 affiliates making all of their income or majority of their income and more than what they're making working maybe their day jobs just promoting Chalkbox. And it's not
yeah.
because I want to make a lot of money,
I
right?
love that as KPI.
It's not
Yeah,
like a personal like, hey, I want to make tons of money from work. It's because I know that our affiliates, especially the top performing ones that really live and die and love the brand and that we're talking to like pretty much every day, like I know that that's also their goal, right? Like they love the brand so much that they put so much time and effort thinking about like creative ways to make content for Chalkbox that it's like I want nothing more for them to be like, wow, I just doubled my salary this year by just promoting Chalkbox. Like that would make me happy. And the
yeah,
reality is there's affiliates out there that are making more than what I pay myself. And that makes me so happy, right? And so not to share any secrets, but like the goal is like we're thinking a lot about like how do we make sure that they have everything they need and more to crush it on TikTok Shop and beyond
yeah.
as a partner of ours. Really, it's really a part. They're really partners.
It's so funny you mentioned that because I don't think we've ever directly discussed that. But we have, and I'll set this as my goal as well because we'll
Yeah,
do this more consistently. We can do a fun callback in the chaos of September planning. Uh, But my one big objective for Q3 is obviously get folks through, get all of our existing and new brands through cold start. But we have what we
Yeah.
call there's a second layer that we have internally that we call escaping TikTok's escape velocity, which for those that don't know, that's like how fast you have
Okay.
to go to get up into orbit, because
Oh yeah.
gravity, if people believe in gravity still, Gen Z.
Ah,
Anyway,
yeah.
if the Earth is flat, I don't know. I hear insane things now. I have too much time on TikTok, but anyway, escape velocity. Once you, what do you have to do to get into orbit? And that differs from a cold start. I look at cold start as like sprint to $10,000 in sales, which allows the flywheel to start working because you
Yeah.
can get
Yeah.
good affiliates, you can get ads running,
Yeah.
whatever. Part of our escape velocity checklist, the first thing on it is how many creators can we get to 10 creators earning around 1,000 a month in sales? Because I've looked at brands who have, they
The
work with
commission
thousands
rate.
of creators, they have hundreds doing a couple hundred in sales, but I'd much rather be in a position where I have 10 or 5, even 5 earning more than 1,000, just 1,000, because once that number gets to like $1,000, it becomes a little bit more real for those creators, especially the non like giant creators, which we're never working with because now you got to pay them up front. But once you get to that
Yeah.
point, to your point, now you can foster that as a network, and you can just work to carve off, hey, let's work with each of these people individually,
Yeah.
and let's go make sure you earn 1,500 next month, and then
Yeah.
let's do 2 grand, and then let's do 3 grand, and let's continue growing it. And it's such a good growth path. And that really is, there's so much focus to the high volume affiliate stuff, getting thousands of videos into GMV max,
Yeah.
maximizing ROAS. But really the separator between the great brands and the not great brands is, do you have 10 to 20 to 30 folks who are reliant on your brand as an income stream? Again, not in a negative way, but in a very positive, like
Yeah.
you're enabling their own career, because there's so many people, we've seen this all the time, there's so many people working jobs they hate, they're doing
Yeah.
work they hate.
Yeah.
And I'll close out with one of my favorite stories of this. One of our early brands, we used to be top in the beverage category, but we're going through some stuff. We need to raise a round. We're trying to figure out retail first because you have to for beverage. So we're not going
Yeah.
to post great numbers this year. But anyway, one of our top creators from Joplin, Missouri, which is it's a sore spot for me because I grew up driving through there. I know it well. It's a very, redneck, random in Missouri, and the whole town got destroyed about a decade ago from tornadoes. Anyway, his son had very strange back problem, some form of scoliosis, needed this crazy surgery, or he just wasn't going to be able to do anything athletic or be very mobile at all. He earned so much as an affiliate with us in just the course of a year. We're talking north of hundreds of thousands of dollars here,
Wow.
that he was able to pay to have some insane, experimental, crazy, cool surgery that is totally
Wow.
going to change the course now of this kid's life. It's enabled this creator to actually start their own business. He has a recipe book now that he sells with a lot of our products involved in it. And it's just like, say what you want about the brands and creators talking about giving away Lambos and going on crazy trips. Like, the good
Yeah.
of this platform is your stay-at-home mom and average everyday American
Yeah.
living anywhere who's going to start earning additional income, promoting brands, and doing it in a very fun, positive way, and unlocking a lifestyle that is frankly a win-win. So I love that you have that as a North
Yeah.
Star, because
Yeah.
I tell that to all of our brands. I don't think they know what that means often,
Yeah.
but that is one of our, that's like our North Star for what we define as escape velocity. Is like getting to that point is so critical.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And like things like that are really what makes all the blood, sweat, and tears like worth it, right? It's like hearing that our affiliates were able to buy Christmas gifts for their families because of the extra money they earned promoting Chalkbox, knowing that they're putting food on the table for their kids, right? They're supplementing their husband's day job with, you know, money that they're earning from Chocbox. All that stuff is what I love. And like, yeah, all the you know, do $1 million in sales and get a Lambo. Like, I hate that stuff, to be honest. Like, I
Yeah.
hate no, like nobody wants, not nobody, but they don't want to. You know, most affiliates, I would bet, don't want a Lambo. Like, what are they gonna do with a Lambo?
Yeah.
You know, they're doing this to put food on the table for the kids, to maybe, you know, spend a couple $1,000s more, or $1,000 more on rent, so they can have a bigger place for them and their families, right? Little things like that, right? Like, you know, we're running a contest right now for our affiliates, and like, so a lot of our affiliates are Sams, right? Stay-at-home moms, and we're running like, you know, as a parent myself, you know, trying to put myself in their shoes. I'm like, what would be like meaningful to a young, you know, couple or a young family who has kiddos, and right, maybe not a lot of time to spend with their significant other. And so we have one of our tiers. If you hit a certain revenue over the course of the next, I think, like 30 days or whatnot, we're doing like date night on Chalkbox, right? So we'll coordinate with them. We'll find their favorite restaurant. If they don't have a restaurant that's local that they love, we'll like hire a private chef to come to their house and like do a date night, right? Because as parents who have kids, right, you oftentimes forget to spend time, or maybe it's hard to find time to spend with your partner, right? So like doing little things
Yeah.
like that I think really resonate with our affiliate network is really what they need, and what, you know, we hope to provide them with. So
It's amazing. And it's a win for the business. It's a win-win all around, because
yeah,
also
yeah,
a date night is going to cost on the line item maybe, less than $500, but
yeah,
that the experience is worth way more than that in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of cash. Like the
yeah,
the purpose and emotion behind it matters so much.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome.